Aloha, everyone, and welcome to our Creative Lab Hawaii webinar on acting. This is a first ever for us, so we're very excited that you've joined us today. And we have, of course, a stellar panel of all women actors and other great skill sets that they have, and you're going to hear from them shortly. So I'm Georgia Skinner, and I'm the head of the Creative Industries Division for the state of Hawaii. And it's my pleasure to be with you today to share a little bit about why we have the program and look forward to your comments and feedback and hopefully see you in one of our programs in the future. Those that are either the weekend virtuals or the hope to be immersive programs in person, hopefully in 2021. You know, the pandemic has been a challenge for so many people, and I think that I really want to shout out to all of you who are joining us and those in our creative community who may see this at another time, that it's very important to understand that even though, especially performing arts, creative arts, our film industry, all has been impacted, we are really pivoting to a whole new era where what is most important is the creative content that we export from Hawaii, and you're all part of that community. And I'd like to introduce tonight our wonderful moderator and dear colleague and friend, Marisha Palma Elmore. And many of you may know her as someone who has been an actress and producer here in Hawaii. Fortunately, she's one of the very few intellectual property attorneys, which is fantastic. And she's always been a huge advocate for Hawaii's creatives. You know, she originated from Texas and has been in Hawaii since 2001. And currently serves as our executive director for the Screen Actors Guild AFTRA here in Hawaii. And in addition to that, like she doesn't have enough to do, she is also the chair of our Hawaii Film and Entertainment Board. And we're just so proud to have her be part of this community. We're very fortunate that she has really embraced the idea of really nurturing the people that are especially in our acting scope of beautiful people. So, and that's all of you. You know, she has served as an adjunct professor at the University of Hawaii, and I had the pleasure of speaking to one of her classes. That was really awesome, Marisha, thank you. And when she's not working, she's at home on the windward side with her 3 kids, 3 dogs, 4 chickens, and her lovely husband, who also is working from home because of the pandemic when he's not shooting and directing amazing video and running the Ohina Labs. So please welcome my dear friend to moderate tonight's amazing panel of incredible women professionals. Take it away, Myrnie.
Thank you, Georgia. Thank you so much. That was so nice, and I feel so lucky. Thank you so much for having me. In a moment, I'm going to introduce our panelists, but I wanted to share with you a little bit about how this webinar is going to work. We're going to have conversations with our panelists, and it's going to last about 40 to 45 minutes, and that'll leave us 10 minutes for Q&A from our viewers. So from all you guys, if you look down at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there'll be a Q&A function. Go ahead and start typing your questions in that box. The Executive Director of Creative Lab Hawaii, Michael Palmieri, will be monitoring those questions, and he's going to choose those questions to present during our Q&A session. Okay, now for our panelists, and I'm so glad it's all written out because you ladies have a lot of wonderful things, and I don't want to forget anything. So thank you so much for writing it out for me, so I make sure everybody knows how awesome you are. First, our Hawaii-born, our one and only Kimee. Hey, Kimee Balmilero is best known for her regular role as the medical examiner, Dr. Noelani Cunha, on Hawaii Five-0 and Magnum P.I. Other professional credits include she was part of the original Broadway cast of Mamma Mia, touring company of Miss Saigon, and she also studied improv and sketch comedy at the Uprights Citizens Brigade and performs an ongoing show with Filipino AF whenever she's back in LA. Since returning home to Hawaii in 2012, Kimee has launched several creative ventures, including Improv Hawaii, the Hawaii Comedy Festival, and Stagefish, which is a theater production company. There's the fish. There you go. And in March 2020, Kimee opened a performance space in Honolulu. So everyone should check this out when we get to the place where we can check out spaces and do theater, which I hope is soon. The Tiny Stage, and it's a place for creatives to showcase original work. And right now they're doing virtual shows, which is great, but hopefully soon we can all come and check that out. So yay to Kimee, and thank you so much for helping organize and bring us all together, which is really cool because I think you're the catalyst to bring us all together. Next up is Deedee. I told you. I'm sorry, see, inside joke, sorry. Deedee Magno Hall, who is the voice of Pearl on the Cartoon Network's Peabody, GLAAD, and Emmy Award-winning animated series Steven Universe. So we'll pause there and applauses for that real quick. Yay, that was a big deal. And her theater credits include Miss Saigon, Wicked, Next to Normal. I'm going to read all of them because I want everyone to know how awesome you are. So that right now, If and Then, TV for, she was part of the original cast of the all-new Mickey Mouse Club. She's been on Goliath, Grey's Anatomy, Third Watch, Della Ventura, Rear Window, Faith, and Sister Act 2. And she's also a singer, a recording artist, and co-founder of the Mommy Singing Group. I love this, the Mama Bears. Deedee is a mom of 2 boys. Her husband, Clifton, grew up here in Hawaii. So that's the Hawaii connection. And now I'll also introduce, wait, hold on, yay, Deedee, and then Joy Regullano, who is a writer, an actor, and a comedian based in LA. And she's currently writing for a DreamWorks Netflix animated show. And she was a Sesame Street writing fellow. How cool is that, guys? Sesame Street. And a staff writer for the Netflix show, The Healing Powers of Dude. Her TV acting credits include all the best shows in the world, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, Modern Family, Speechless, House of Lies, and Supernatural. And I'm going to take a second to fangirl you now. There you go. That was my second for fangirling. And this is why you guys chose me, because I'm like the fan. I am a huge fan, and I love it. Okay, so she's performed with improv and she's performed improv and sketch comedy all around LA at UCB and Second City Hollywood. And everyone go check this out. Ready? She has a YouTube sketch called White Fetish. Let's all check that out. She's got over 1 million views so far. And this was actually featured on Huffington Post. All right. How cool is that? How lucky are we? I'm looking at the participants and the panel, and this is just, let's see, like smiley faces and everything. We are so very, very lucky to have you 3 amazing, talented, and beautiful ladies and women of color here to talk about acting. And this is my first question, so you guys can take it as you will. Why acting? Why acting? What propelled you to choose this career?
I guess for me, I'm an only child, and I've said this a bunch of times, so I'm kind of just like always operating at 11 most of the time, and somehow fell into doing it in high school, or when I was in 5th grade and then into high school, and kind of accidentally fell into it professionally. And I mean that because I was plucked out of high school or directly after high school to start my professional career with Miss Saigon. And I think ever since then, I just kept wanting to keep doing it. So it's a lot of work. You know, I've been doing this now professionally for 23 years, and I keep choosing it because I love it. You know, I love the work, and I love getting to collaborate with people in the community at any level. And so, yeah, I think for me, initially it was because what do we do with this crazy only child energy? And then it turned into, wow, it's become such a passion of mine on so many different levels. So yeah, that's why I'm still here.
I feel like I have the same kind of similar answer. I started when I was fairly young, and I just got bitten by the bug growing up, watching shows like Kids Incorporated and Star Search, and seeing kids on TV, and I just loved singing too. I loved singing. There was always music in the house. My dad was very musical, naturally taught himself how to play the piano and the guitar. And so there was always music in the house, and I always wanted to, I don't know, I guess I was kind of a ham, which I kind of see my youngest son following in my footsteps. Scary. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so I got bitten quite early, and once I got a taste of what it was going to be like to be on a set and to be working in front of a camera, acting and singing and dancing with other kids who had the same interests and love and passion for this art. Once I got a taste of that, I can't imagine myself doing anything else. So
I guess my story is a little bit like I didn't touch acting until college, actually, so I'm a little bit different in that way. Like I thought I was gonna be a doctor my whole life. Both of my parents are doctors, so I was gonna take over my dad's clinic, very Lion King, but I always liked making people laugh. Like I remember in 7th grade, like they were like spelling. We had to use vocab words in a sentence, and I was like, anyone can use these vocab words, right? But can anyone make it funny? And so, like, just finding ways to entertain people in all those ways, but feeling like maybe I wasn't allowed to act or things like that. And then I got a B on my first math test in college, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to cut it. I'm not going to be a good doctor. And then, very Asian of me, I was like, I got to be perfect if I'm going to be doing this. So then I switched to acting and stuff, theater.
I love that. You got the Asian F, didn't you? Those who know, the B is the Asian F, right? Thank you for sharing those. No, so the ones who know in the comments will know what I'm talking about, especially with the dad doctor. So I totally get it. So thank you for answering the starting out question. So we're gonna pivot a little bit. You know what? Let's keep going on the starting out. And I want to know this too. What was y'all's big break? First big break. We got to now. There's baby actresses, college actresses. What was the big break?
Miss Saigon was a big break for me. Again, I just auditioned when I was a senior in high school, and I got the call a month before graduating, and then just took it from there. So kept going.
Oh wait, and for the folks who don't know, you are a bright kid. So
I am a bright kid.
I
grew up in Kaneohe, Hawaii. Went to Castle High School. Actually started with Mr. Bright when I was in 5th grade. So that was my first taste of being in theater. And it was just kind of a thing that bright kids did, which sounds weird, but yeah, we all just kind of auditioned for that show for fun, auditioned for fun. And yeah, then I got picked, and that's actually where I first met Deedee. So yeah, that was my big break. And that's, yeah.
I would say my first big break was the New Mickey Mouse Club, and that was when I was about 12 years old. But before that, I was doing some local performing at schools, and I was involved in a Just Say No to Drugs and Alcohol program where we sang original music and performed at churches and schools and things like that. So that was my first introduction to actually performing in front of an audience, in front of people, and with other kids that like to act and sing. But my first professional job was the New Mickey Mouse Club, and that I consider as my big break, I guess.
I guess my little break was when I graduated college, and then I moved back home to my parents' house, which is Orange County, and then I was commuting to LA. And then I was actually taking a writing class because I was trying to be a writer. And in my writing class, there was this person that was like, oh, are you an actor as well as a writer? I was like, yeah, but I'm more of a writer. And he's like, oh, because if you look like a minority, or you are a minority and you can play high school, and I'm looking for someone just like you. I'm like, oh, great. And then it was like the second audition he ever sent me out on was 90210. And it was for like, this character was like selling Adderall. It was called Bookish Girl. And so I like read for that. And then I read her kind of deadpan as if she had a million things to do, and selling Adderall was just like one of them. And then I got it. So that was my first little break.
Awesome.
These are great stories. I love that. Now I'm going to go look for the 90210 for Bookish Girl selling Adderall. That's pretty awesome.
Bookish Girl. I love it.
Bookish Girl. at least they gave you some kind of name. It wasn't just like girl number 4. So that's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, actually, I had a name in dialogue. Her name was like somebody says "Yo Maggie," but in the script, I'm Bookish Girl. So.
Maggie, I love it. So now, we're taking our trajectory. We've gotten our big break. We started out. Now you're doing it. If we can pivot to the business of acting. So I know that there are, of the panelists and with the program that's going on, a lot of this really is, being a creative entrepreneur. And part of that is the business of, being a creative and the business of being an actor. So with that being said, part of being an actor is finding management. So if we can kind of pivot to that, if any advice you can give, because I think there are, folks here who are starting out in their career and they have the question. So what about management? What about agents? How do we get an agent? So I like the question is phrased land, but I like that. So how did you land your management, your agent or your manager?
Go ahead, Deedee.
I was just going to say that when I performed in local places in San Diego where I grew up, when I did a television show, a news channel singing contest, somebody was watching, and I guess he was a manager type person. I'm not sure if he was already a manager. He took interest in me, and then proceeded to contact my parents and just talk about how ways that he could help me further my career. Introduced me to agents in Los Angeles, and so I was meeting with different agencies to see who was a good fit for me. And then also they had to consider things like, they have a group, a type of actor or a person that they're looking for, because you want to be with an agent who doesn't have a whole lot of people that look like you, so that you're not competing with too many. But this business there's so much. It's all about competition. I mean, you're always going to be up against people who are types, specific types. But I think that nowadays it's kind of growing. So people are thinking outside of the box, and they're being a little bit more ambitious about casting untraditionally. And so I think it doesn't matter as much nowadays. But that's how I got my first manager and agent, through a show that I had done, and somebody just happened to be watching.
I guess for me, I can share on 2 different levels, right? Like if you're first starting out, or maybe just have a shorter resume right now. So my first time moving to New York, I got Miss Saigon because it was an open call in Honolulu, so it was a very small pool. You didn't not have to submit to go to that audition. But when I moved to New York, I did a mass mailing. I mean, I back then, when I sound back in my day, but you could buy a book or buy publications, because, internet wasn't that a thing yet. That feels like a long time ago. It was, where you could research agents, so I did all of my research, and I mass mailed to all of these people. And I got like zero calls. Okay. But that didn't stop me. I kept on going to open calls, and when I started getting called back for things completely unrepresented, I sent a follow-up to people. I said, hey, I just went in for the revival of Into the Woods, and I got a call back for Little Red, no representation. I also have a call back for Mamma Mia, no representation. Do you think you want to see me now? And that's when I started getting calls. So that, me starting out with even what would be considered a big credit. I mean, Miss Saigon just ended, but people were like, no thanks, no thanks, no thanks. But you just kept going. Cut to today, coming off of a show and also entering this world of like Deedee said, of how they're looking to cast now, which they should have been doing forever, but how they're approaching things now is, I've been in meetings with agencies all week. And because now I have a series regular, and this is different from Kimee in New York, Kimee nowadays, I have a series regular credit of a hot show that just ended. So now I have people approaching me You know what I'm saying? And that's a really cool place to be. It doesn't always happen, and I understand that, but that could happen. And then just a quick thing about my manager. My manager, I met through a friend. I said, hey, I'm looking for someone. I like where your career is going. How do you feel about your manager? And do you think you could introduce us? And then that happened. And luckily, Patrick and I, my manager, hit it off great. So there are different ways through a friend, mass mailings, and they could, like Deedee said, find you, you know?
Yeah, yeah. My story is a little similar to Kimmy. Well, you heard about how I met my first agent, just taking a writing class and happening to look like a minority and like I can play high school. And then he became a manager, and then he took me with him. And then he was the one who set up meetings with agents and stuff when that happened. But as far as like other like writing reps, like I was the same where I hustled. Like I would send postcards when I would have stage readings of things of my pilots, and I'd like research on IMDb Pro, what are shows that I think I'd be great to write on? Who are those writers rep by? Look at their rosters. Like, do they have anyone like me? Are they higher level agents, or like would they be willing to take a chance? Like, are they more junior agents? And then making a list and then mailing postcards to those people. And like maybe I'd mail out 30 postcards, and like I'd get like one response from an assistant at like Paradigm, like worth it, you know what I mean? And then they'd be like, oh, we're gonna try to make it to your show. And then like that happened again. Various pilots, sometimes I get no responses, sometimes I would. Like, oh, an assistant from William Morris. Oh, like, we weren't able to make it, but can you send us a packet? Things like that. And then, but then cut to like years later, I wrote a musical called Supportive White Parents about kind of my struggle and healing with my parents and stuff. And then now, and then agents finally came to come see me, because then like actually studios were like interested in maybe talking about making Supportive White Parents a movie. So yeah, to just like knowing that I'm still the same person when they wouldn't call me back, but it's like, not, now when you advocate for yourself, that's when kind of people come looking for you, I guess.
Absolutely.
There was a comment there about being inspirational, and I just wanted to echo that. The listening to y'all's stories really is inspirational, and I'm all about gratitude. So I just want to say thank you again. I'm going to drop gratitude all the time. This is just wonderful. Thank you guys for being willing to share your stories. So that agent question actually goes into my next one, and then I've got specific questions for each of you, but this is the next general one, and that is the advice. So what advice would you give the actors listening, watching, chatting on chat with it? I think we're on Facebook too. What's your advice? What's the little nuggets of wisdom that you want to share with actors who are just starting out, or maybe even not starting out? Folks have been doing it for a long, long time and still waiting for their big, little, or medium break.
Just advice in general, or specifically about representation?
Acting. So generally speaking, acting. Yeah. And staying in, being, in this business of acting.
I think my advice is just to ask yourself why you want to do it, because you're crazy. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot of work, and you hear the work that we've all done. I mean, and especially to have, again, to have experience in a world that maybe our voices were not as loud or were unheard, but you have to love the work. So that would be my number one thing, because, and I said this in the talk earlier, is that you hear us right now, the three of us, talking about all of our successes, right? All of the things you see on my reel, on my resume, 5 gigs, out of a 23-year career. There are a lot more auditions that I went on that I did not get. Okay, so I think you have to love the work. If you don't love the work, then I would say, okay, cool, go audition here and there, get a moment on a show, and then be good with it, have fun with it. But if you really want this to be a profession, you have to love the work. And then my second piece of advice would to always be yourself, because that is the one thing that you can control. You know what I'm saying? Is that we're in a business that they're going to tell you everything that is wrong with you. You're going to get notes for days, even when you do your best job, they're going to tell you why it wasn't right. So just trust your work, love your work, and always trust who you are, and always bring that to the table in anything that you do, because that's what you have, and that's what's different from everyone else.
I totally concur with everything that Kimee said. One of the things that I like to try to remind myself is the same thing. to remind myself why I'm doing it. I feel like I've been in this business for a long time, and I feel so very blessed that I've been able to work fairly consistently, but there have been definite days where I'm just like, what am I doing this for? You know, because there's a lot of struggle, there's a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of waiting. You know, we try to book that gig that's going to help sustain us financially, so that for the time that we're not working, we can actually live off of, hopefully, some of the monies that we made doing a disc gig back in that time that we were actually working. I think that I would suggest definitely staying true to yourself, remembering why it is that you do it, but also keep being creative. You know, do the thing that you love, and then love doing the thing that you do, because there's gonna be inevitable hard times. It's a constant struggle. I mean, you know, this pandemic, you know, there's so much uncertainty, but this business was already uncertain to begin with. Nothing is guaranteed and nothing is for sure. So trying to stay focused on making the art, and making the art that is true to yourself, what you love doing. Never do anything that you're uncomfortable with. If at all you get into a situation and it just doesn't feel right, walk away. You know, it's fine. Somebody else might want to do it, but you know what I mean? Like it, and you're gonna audition, and you're gonna meet people, like Kimee said, that will think that you're not right for the part. And we've auditioned for things that I've had my heart set on. I was just like, I felt like I was gonna get this part. You know, it felt really, really good. And then crickets. So I would just say, for every role that you go out for, be prepared, do your best job, and then, you know, forget about it. Try to. And I know it's hard to do that at the time, but that's the only way to just keep trying to stay focused on the art and the reason why you're doing it. There was something else, but I can't think of it right now.
That was perfect.
Woo! Yeah, everything that everyone said so far. This was a piece of advice that I truly hated hearing, because I hear it all the time. But like, make your own stuff, because that is like that's like the antidote to, like, I was talking about this earlier in the other panel. But yeah, like, when I feel jealous, or when I start feeling like unfulfilled or sad or like blocked, it's because I'm not making my own stuff, and I'm not, when I'm sitting there waiting for the phone to ring, waiting for someone else to give me a job. Like, you are the one who can give yourself a job. And if you won't invest in yourself, or you can't, like, then how can you expect someone else to invest in you, you know? And then you're just like what Kimee said, like, you're just focused on your art, like, because every one of us has an experience that only you have, and only you can write that. And if you don't, then your story dies with you, or your parents, or whoever's story it is that you have in your heart. So there's that. Make your own stuff. I think, become so good that no one can deny you. Like, you know, there are certain things that are out of our control, like, you know, being Asian American, being wrong with the part, being peanut butter when they're looking for almond butter, you know, things like that. But like, when you work on your skills, like, you know that you did a good job, and no one can ever take that away from you. And then the last thing I'll say is, like, have a life, you know, like, what are you going to draw on for your scenes, or for your writing, if you don't have any life experience? You know, you can always tell when you read a pilot or watch a movie, like, all they know is film school, or like, all they know is like this, you know, like, there's nothing in life that they're commenting on, or that they've really experienced. Because sometimes I think just growing older makes you a better actor, because you've experienced more stuff. And don't expect, like, getting that dream job to, like, solve all your problems. Like, I thought when I got my staff writer job, is going to make my parents love me, or is going to, you know, make me rich and fabulous and super happy, you know. And then I was like, oh, my life is, like, still the same, like, you know. And so like finding a happiness inside you, I think is really important to me. Finding a work-life balance, and that there's more to life than this. Like, this is an important part of life, but it's not all of life.
Right.
So
100%,
Joy,
yeah.
that was a great segue to my next question, and this is specifically for Deedee. So thank you for setting me up for the next one. But Deedee, about work-life balance. So how do you balance your creative and business needs with that, the needs of your family. And you're a working mama, and especially now during crazy COVID times. I'm not sure if you've got kids doing school at your house also, but how do you do it? How do you balance it? Or is balance not the right word? What do you?
There's definitely the trying to balance everything. It's not going to be perfect, but I feel so grateful to have a husband who is in the same business, or at least we come from the same business. We come from the same love. We met during the Saigon, same time, around the same time that we met Kimee, or that I met Kimee. Kimee and my husband actually know each other, growing up in Kaneohe. And then, I mean, we're older than Kimee, but anyway. So he and I, we're partners in this. And because there have been times when he's gotten a job and I'm home with the kids, or vice versa. I am off for 3 months doing a show, and he's with the kids. We also have very supportive, loving parents who step in, and siblings who step in, and friends who step in to help with our children. So that is the biggest balance in my life right now, currently, just trying to make sure that my family life at home is healthy, and that it's not, that I'm not just completely focused on my career, because I'm not just living and working for myself now. I'm living and working for my family. This is my way of income. So it's been tough with COVID, lots of cancellations, lots of shows, potential job opportunities that were canceled or postponed, and so it's been difficult that way. But the brighter side of things is that there's a lot of family time that we've been able to share together. It's not always perfect, like I said. The homeschooling has been the biggest challenge, but I do believe that we're just trying to do what we can to the best of our ability, to the best of our knowledge. It's definitely a teamwork. I couldn't do it without my husband and without my family support. So that's how I balance it. We also are believers in my house. We do a lot of praying, and so I'm leaning a lot on my faith, especially during this time, this crazy time that we're in right now. So that is actually that's the main reason how I am able to try to do my best to balance. And then that's it, really. All we can do, all we have control of doing, just like these ladies said, the only thing we have control over is how we, choose everything that we do day to day, waking up with gratitude, waking up with all of the things that we do have, and not worrying about all the things that we don't have. But that is definitely how I try to balance. Career, life.
Pick up. You said something very important. I want to pick up on that, if you don't mind, and throw it over to Joy. This is one of the things here I have on my list is, what if, so you said you have supportive parents, which is awesome, supportive family. What happens if, to Joy, if you're in a situation where, parents, significant other, et cetera, aren't necessarily that supportive with your career?
Yeah, that's a hard one. And I think like part of it is like trusting in like this is gonna sound a little woo-woo, but like trusting in the message that you're getting from the universe. It's like, if you believe in your heart, like this is what you're put on earth to do, like our parents like just want the best for us. And especially if they're like immigrants or they're Asian American, they just don't know, like they don't know you can make a career out of this. And like just to be patient with them, and like, and then trust, like, what, like I'm going to do this one step at a time, and hopefully one day like they'll get on board, and it's taken my parents like literally like a decade, it took like, checks from commercials, like me purposely getting them mailed to my house so they see, whatever, I don't know. Like it's hard, like I guess money speaks to Asian parents or whatever, but yeah, it's like trust that like in time hopefully they'll see, and it doesn't mean that you're like not lovable or that your special talents are like not special. And they're just humans, people in your life. They're humans like us, and they don't always know everything as much as we want them to be perfect. So I guess working on forgiveness, going to therapy, writing a musical about it, all those things can help you work through that.
I love it. Writing a musical, that's good. I mean, it really is, right? It's the best therapy is to get it out creatively. And so this question to Kimee kind of goes along the lines of family and, supportive people and our network. So, I've heard it many times, and I'm sure you've heard it, well, if you want a career, you got to leave Hawaii. And, one of the reasons why I feel like places like Creative Lab and the things that you guys are doing is so wonderful and great for our folks here is hopefully it'll help stem that kind of brain drain. But, specifically for acting, do you think, what is your opinion on that Hawaii actors need to move to the continent to pursue work, to do their career? What are your thoughts and feelings on that?
I think that it depends on where you are in your career. If you're getting started, the cool thing right now about what's happening is that it's all self-tapes. So if you are connected with representation or have the means to get submitted for auditions outside of Hawaii, you don't have to be there necessarily to audition now. And also, if you're just starting out, the other cool thing about Hawaii is that we have a lot rather, of productions coming through. Of course, we had Hawaii Five-0 for a long time. We have Magnum running right now. We've got an HBO Max show running. We've got the possibility of a Disney Plus show. And it keeps happening. So if you're just starting out, I would say hold off for a second of making the move, especially during this pandemic, and to just focus on connecting with the community here. And also, get some experience under your belt. Because I think the other thing too is that people look at acting and looking at other people's careers, and they're like, oh well, Kimee went to go get a manager in LA, so I guess I have to do that too. It depends on where you are. And don't ever compare your journey to somebody else's, because it's going to be different for everybody. If you are an actor, a Hawaii-based actor who has, done all the co-stars, maybe you're even lucky to get a big guest star on one of these series. You've done, the big movies that are coming through, and you've got a lot under your belt. I would say you don't have to necessarily leave, especially now, but maybe it is the next step is to start contacting people in New York, LA, to get you other experience. So I guess my answer is no, you don't have to move right now. But yes, to possibly looking outside of the Honolulu community if your career is ready to take that next step.
That is a great answer. So I've got one last question before we open it up. There are a lot of folks have been putting questions in the chat and the Q&A. And thank you again to Michael for helping to organize that. But so we spent some time talking about individual careers and where we've come from, where we're going, and advice to folks coming up. So I want to pivot and look big picture stuff, if we can look big picture stuff, and talk specifically about diversity and inclusion. So anyone can look at this Zoom and this panel, and we got something in common. We got something in common, right? So, but this, let's be real. We don't see this very often, where we see a panel that looks like us, where we see people that look like us. More so now, probably, than in the past, but it's still coming there. So this question specifically, since the Oscars So White social media campaign, so putting ourselves in that kind of framework, Hollywood has spoken out a lot about equity and inclusion and diversity. And personally, and also just, big picture career-wise, have we all noticed the difference? And if you have, how so? And if we could just, end our portion of this, talking a little bit about bringing up our brothers and sisters and diversity and inclusion, that would be great. And then we'll flip it over to Michael after.
I feel like my experience has been a little bit different, just because when I was growing up, I was so grateful to be growing up in a place where there was a lot of diversity, and it wasn't as how do I put this without being, it just wasn't a thing that I was like really focused on. It didn't occur to me that I looked so different from somebody else, because we all looked different. And I've been able to work on projects growing up that it was very inclusive and very diverse. So it's always been that kind of rainbow color of a community. And I know that there's a lot of diversity, or that has been out there, maybe not as much and maybe not as prominent. There's definitely change. I see, people creating more diverse film and television shows. I think my worry is that we're just gonna fill in the spots, but and then not be careful to make sure that the work is good. I just want to make sure that when we do put ourselves out there, that we're not just putting ourselves out there because we want to see that representation. We want absolutely authentic representation, but then we also want to make sure that it's work that we feel very passionate about, work that we're going to either, we're going to lift our community up, that is moving, that makes us laugh, that makes us think, that makes us feel all of these emotions, but like also just not for the sake of placing a person of color in this role, placing another person of color in this role, just for the sake of diversity. I feel like I just want all of us to work together and make good work, and make meaningful work, make meaningful art, and tell stories. Like Joy said, everybody has a story to tell. There's so much just richness in people's individual stories that sometimes don't get told. And unfortunately, maybe it's perhaps that we need to get more people representation on that other production side. There's so many actors, there's so many artists, but maybe there's not enough people that can actually get the work out there financially, production wise, that end that I'm not real versed on. So that's my hope moving forward, that we can all work together to make good work and tell so many different stories. There's so much out there that has not been told yet.
Yeah, I'll go next because I have a similar, I grew up here in Hawaii, so I have a similar experience growing up with Deedee, is that I never thought anything of it because, in when I saw Grease, actually Deedee's husband, who's Hapa, was Danny, so I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And our Sandy was Filipino, so of course I grew up thinking I could also be Sandy in Grease. I didn't have to look like Olivia Newton-John. But I definitely want to echo what Deedee is saying as far as, on the other side of it. And if there's anyone out there watching that is in a position of making decisions, whether it's you're part of a theater a theater board, and you're bringing on the next person. Maybe you want to talk about having, here in Hawaii, especially a native Hawaiian voice on your board, no matter what kind of stuff you're putting out there, because this is, it's important to get those kinds of voices heard. And also for the actors too, don't be afraid to say something. If you're in a position and you're, I'll give an example. Amy Hill, who plays Kumu on Magnum P.I, and many, many other things. She's amazing. When she got this role, she told them, I love it. Do not make me a housekeeper. You know what I mean? She's a curator of Robin's Nest. Okay? She wanted to make that clear. I am the culture curator of Robin's Nest. I am not a housekeeper. Like, she said so, because she did not want to put that out there. She wanted to challenge them to see her differently. And it's not, I hate to say it like this, but sometimes people just don't know, you know? So it's important for us to share our voices and our thoughts. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to figure it out because they're so here, you know? They're just trying to make it through, you know? So don't be afraid to have those voices. And like Deedee, I had something else and I totally forgot to. But yeah, I think just don't be afraid to share your thoughts in a kind way, in a constructive way, of course. This is what I was gonna say. I do notice it now. I do notice a change, so much so that if I see any cast announcement that is not diverse, I think that's weird. And everybody should too, because there's no way that you shouldn't be thinking that, because we have been much, much louder and everybody's doing it. So you need to catch up. That's all I'll say.
Oh my gosh, yeah, everything that everyone said already. Yeah, when I started out, I guess for me, my experience growing up in Orange County, LA, like white was like, it was just like Mean Girls. I was like, that's not my experience, but that's just what media is, unfortunately. Like, because my high school was like full of Asians, and there's like one white table, you know. But in the Mean Girls, there's like all white people, one Asian table. But I just thought, you know, it's like, and then, but things have changed. Like when I started out, like I would get screenwriting teachers. They'd be like, read my play and be like, so why is your main character Filipino? I'm like, I don't know. Why did God make me Filipino? Like, I don't know. Like, I just was born that way, you know, as if it's a choice, you know, and for whiteness, you know, that them being default, it is a choice to be able to put on an identity or something, quote unquote. And then now it's so different. Like now, it's like a hot commodity to have a diverse story, which like Deedee said, hopefully it's not a trend. Like hopefully it's here to stay. And I think you know, I'm cautiously optimistic. That's like the 2020 buzz phrase, right? Cautiously optimistic. And then I guess as far as a call to action, like I think that like everyone doing everything. So like if what the universe is calling you to do is acting, like awesome, like keep doing that, keep working on your craft, like end each day smarter than you started it, keep getting better every day. And if like your calling is like, you say you're a Marie Kondo and you just love cleaning. I love Marie Kondo's story. Like she just loved cleaning, you know, and now she's like a multi-millionaire because she followed her passion. And now, you know what she opened up? Now somebody can do a Marie Kondo character on SNL, you know, or maybe somebody already did. I think maybe Aquafina, you know, now like people become White House chefs who are Filipino. Now someone can write a screenplay about that. You know, like there's Filipino divers. Now somebody can write a screenplay about that. You know, it's like just do whatever you're passionate about. And like maybe you're a multimillionaire and then you can become an investor in a Hollywood investor. You know, like there's like places in the whole world for everyone to be part of this like diverse world. And you just gotta be you and find the intersection of what you're good at, what you're passionate about, and what the world needs, the ikigai.
That was
I
so
think
great.
also,
Thank you.
may I just add a little? Just I
Of
think
course,
that
yeah, sure.
now that people are you know, getting a little bit more comfortable with seeing the diversity, I think I'm hoping, cautiously optimistic, that casting for, you know, the major films aren't going to be so timid in going or casting people that are not as well known, maybe taking more risks because they saw somebody that has no name or that is not recognizable, but they have the skills. They have what it takes to whatever, tell that story or bring out that character, and bring truth to that project. So you know, that's my hope, is that people are willing to maybe take a little bit more risk in the biz, you know, because you never know. You never know.
I know. Thank you so much for sharing all of y'all's knowledge and everything else that you've shared. And that's a great way to kick it over to Michael. And I know he's got questions, so I'm going to go on mute while he asks questions from our audience.
Great. Good evening, ladies. Thank you so much for a wonderful conversation. So the first question that I want to throw your way says, this is for all of you. Have you had a time or times when you were ready to give up your career? If yes, what was that moment? And the second component is, what brought you back?
Well, when I had my first child, I thought my career was over. I called my agent, and I was really scared to tell my agent that I was pregnant. My agent at the time told me and comforted me with words like, people have come back after having babies. You may decide that you don't want to act anymore. And that's fine too, whatever you decide, whatever you're comfortable with, but don't worry, we're going to be here, that kind of thing, if you decide to come back. And that was reassuring to me because I wasn't sure if I was going to come back. Sure enough, my husband got hired. Our child was 4 months old. We packed up our lives and went on tour with Wicked. And my husband was in the show. I was just mom, wife. That was totally fine. I was happy with that. And then almost 2 years later, 18 months later, the role of Nessa Rose came up. And the gal was like, hey, do you want to audition for this show? I'm leaving. And I didn't even think about auditioning for Wicked. So I went to New York just on a whim, auditioned, and then I thought, well, they just hire anybody these days now. I got a call, my agent said, congratulations, you're going to be Nessa Rose. And that's when I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be working again. How are we going to take care of our baby? So I then asked, or rather begged my baby sister to come on tour with us, and she helped watch our son while Mommy and Daddy played pretend on stage night after night. So it was a blessing, but things happen for a reason. Who knows what would have happened if I had not auditioned again after thinking that I wasn't going to work again. So I think it just is, everybody's experience is different.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the time that I thought I was done with it was right before I moved home to Hawaii. This is after Saigon, after doing Mamma Mia, after doing a TV series, children's TV series, and I wasn't working for a really, really long time. I was working at a restaurant before I moved home. I was taking, I was being fulfilled with improv and sketch comedy, that community at the time, but I just wasn't working. Nobody was seeing me, and I was like, maybe this is time to just go home. My husband had moved to Hawaii because of a job. So yeah, what's funny though is I had kind of said like, okay, peace out, LA, New York. I'm going to go back home and start my own thing. And I followed that passion of, if I'm going to be home in Hawaii, I don't want to give up improv and sketch comedy. So I started my own stuff and kept going. I kept following my passion just because nobody was paying me to do it. I kept doing what I loved, which kept my skills up. And then when the opportunity to audition for the new medical examiner of Hawaii 5-0 came up, I was in such a great place, because I didn't have that pressure on myself anymore of, when is my agent going to call? Do I need new pictures? Do I, what, Rachel Sutton called and I was like, okay, cool, sure, whatever, sounds like fun, you know what I mean? And then it turned into what it did. So I guess, I had made the decision to self-care, take care of myself, not stress out about the business. And then when I was so grounded and confident in what I was doing, because I kept doing it every day, I was ready for that opportunity. So I fell back into it because, like Joy said, the universe told me I wasn't done yet. And so that's how I fell back into it.
Less so these days, but I used to joke that I thought about quitting every other day. It's a hard life, I waited tables for 9 years, and it's a hard life, but yeah, connecting to this higher purpose of it's not just about me, it's about representation. Like if I book this role, like on 90210, who knows who it could have gone to? Maybe not another Filipino girl, and maybe another Filipino girl saw that and was like, oh, I can sell Adderall one day. No, just kidding. But but yeah, it's not just about you. It's about this larger purpose, how you contribute to the world. So that helps me get out of the dumps. Oh, and one more thing, I thought of what I wanted to say for the last question too, of when I started out, hardly ever getting series regulars, once in a while, cool. But side characters, always best friends. And then in this last pilot season, I would get the lead of the show, the title role. And I was like, question, like emailing my agents, like, are you sure that's who I'm reading for? Like, you know, it's just like, so, and that to me is so indicative of how it's changed from the writing, how writing trickles over to the acting too. It's like, and so like, then the work for me is decolonizing my mind, like reminding myself, I can lead a show, you know, like who says that I can't? I'm saying I can't right now, you know, because the opportunity is here now. And so, yeah, just like telling yourself like you are worthy and you do have something to contribute to the universe, and it's you.
So the second question is, what tips would you give a writer and or a director to create a great collaboration or collaboration opportunities with actors? What would you, if you had your wish, what would you tell writers before they started writing a script, and or what would you tell a director in order to really create a strong collaborative relationship with actors?
I'm muting myself and throwing that to you, Joy.
Oh my gosh, wait, advice I would give to directors and writers for collaboration. Oh, that's a hard one. Well, for writers, you know, write a role that like an actor would want to play, I guess. I mean, it sounds like, so it's hard to like explain that, because writers, you know, like we tend to be like, what's a funny thing, or what's a funny situation, and then we don't always think about like even the actor that's going to come on for one line and sell Adderall, like they have this character has a life outside of this line, so you like adding like little life to each of those characters. Like if you have that spirit in like every part of your script, it like really elevates it, and allows room for collaboration too. Like I had a role on Garfunkel and Oates where I was like a waitress, and then my line was like, oh, my stepdad died in a plane crash, how are you? Like it's like adding stuff like that adds a lot. And then as far as directors go, gosh, I don't know, like just creating a world that people can play in, like the actors can play in. Like I saw a Q&A with for The Shape of Water, what's his name?
Guillermo del Toro.
Yes, and he just like created a world with that. Like I was like, I've never had any interest in being a director, but I really got like a sense of like what it is to be an auteur, you know, like you have a vision for like this whole, how it looks, like from like the colors to like the actors to everything about it. And I think really like coming into your lane ironically gives more space for others to play as well. I know that's kind of confusing to imagine, but yeah.
Okay, cool. Anyone else? Okay, nope. Okay, good. So let's move on to the next one, which is, so what are the little things you enjoy most about acting and or being on stage? And the second part of the question is, what was a eureka moment in your career when it came to the craft?
What was the first question?
Sure. So what are the little things you enjoy about acting, whether it be on screen or on stage?
Oh, well, one of my favorite things is sort of just putting on, getting into other people's shoes kind of thing, you know, getting to play a character that is so far removed from your own personality, just wearing different hats and like exploring different emotions that you probably have never felt before, and then being able to dive in so deep that you almost can become that person, but then once the curtain comes down or the cameras turn off, you get to snap back into your life again, yourself. I don't know, maybe that's the crazy part of it for actors is just getting to having a safe place to do that, you know. It's almost like therapy if I were to compare it to, and just so that I can have to exercise these different kinds of roller coasters, you know, of emotion. The thing that one of the parts that I got to dive really deeply into is the role of Diana in Next to Normal, where I had to do some research on this character who is bipolar and dealt with mental illness. You know, something that you know, thankfully haven't had to deal with personally in my own life, that I know of anyway. But I got to dive in deep into this character, and I think that was so fulfilling as an actor, but also just opened my eyes to a world that I really had no idea about. So that's one of the the things that I love about acting. Did I answer the question?
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Beautifully.
You win. I think for me, I love working with other people. You know, I started off as a dancer and, you know, doing musical reviews. So I always consider myself an ensemble member. And maybe it is because I'm an only child, like to be part of a group of other people who are just as energetic and have the same passion as me. It's just so much fun. It's great to feed off of each other that way. A big eureka moment. I think there are two levels to it. So when I moved back home, starting Improv Hawaii and seeing how it affected people who were not necessarily in the business was and is still really, really awesome to see. You know how as we grow up, we get told not to play anymore. You know what I mean? We get told like what the right decisions are and what failure is supposed to make you feel like. So, you know, and that makes sense. Taking improv or doing improv comedy in an acting world makes sense, especially when your agent tells you you have to take a class at UCB. You know what I mean? Get that on your resume. But seeing like that major eureka moment, having like seeing quote unquote normal people experience art again and tap back into that natural state of play has been really, really great. And then another level or another moment of eureka was actually playing with Joy's group, Filipino AF. You know, even though I didn't, you know, growing up in Hawaii, I didn't necessarily think of myself any different. I've never been around a group of people who not only had the interest of improv and sketch comedy, but were also Filipino. So it was just like a group of like if 9-year-old Kimee could create her perfect, you know, her perfect household of friends around her, this it would have been this group. So it was just kind of it was a major moment of like, wow, being surrounded by other people who share that experience, you feel 100% free because you don't have to explain every joke. You know what I mean? You don't have to say sorry for doing something because they don't understand it or they don't maybe your someone else in your group is thinking like, well, no one's gonna get it. Like everybody is on board. That's my favorite thing about playing with that group. So thank you, Joy, for for Filipino.
Thank you for playing with us.
Yeah.
I just love making people laugh, or like making a choice that surprises people. For that waitress role, like Fred Savage directed it. That was cool. I was like, he was like, Joy, like we've been trying to get you on for a while. Like we're a big fan. You're so funny. I'm like, you're a big fan. Like I'm a big fan. And then so like I came in playing it like really deadpan and angry, and he was like, can you be like less angry? I was like, yeah, of course, no problem. So then I did, and then he was like, no, go back to what you're doing, like that was better. So like kind of like having fun with these choices that are a little bit out of left field. Like yeah, I think one of my lines was like I was like, my stepdad died in a plane crash, and then the leads were like, oh, I'm sorry, and I'm like, it's not your fault. Like I'm like suspicious of them. I was like kind of like I bet the writer didn't think of that when they wrote that, but like just like when my acting coach suggested that, it like cracked me up to even think about saying like that. So yeah, just the little surprises in scripts that you can find.
Great. So this is our last question, and then I'll toss it back to you, Marcia. And it's really more about branding yourself as an actor online and through social media. You know, obviously social media continues to play a huge influence, you know, both positive and negative in people's lives, and also can advance careers or destroy them. What role has social media played in being able to advance you as actors and hyphenates, actors, singers, performers, and writer, director, producers, and so on and so forth?
I love social media. I think, but you know, I think it depends. It depends on kind of how you want to present yourself. And for me, my social media is 100% me. So I never feel like I'm having to keep up with an image, I guess. And that would be my suggestion, I guess. If you feel like how you want to be in the acting world is totally different from how you are in your real life, then I would say be very strategic about what you post. You know, maybe you're a character actor but you're very, you know, shy in person. I mean, you don't want to just like post pictures of yourself like in the corner, like thinking about stuff. time life. So be strategic about how you put yourself out there and treat it like a business account. You know, for me, it's just fun. So I'll post certain things, but I do also have a private account because I connect with my family. Like I do post pictures of me and my grandma, but nobody has to see every single thing that I do all the time. So you know what I mean? So I think that there are two ways to do it. Again, if you feel like you need it because of the business, then be strategic about it, and don't try and force yourself too much to always post. You know, like have a backlog of things so you can give because it can be so much. I mean, it's overwhelming. Let's be real. So I think it can benefit you if you are using it strategically to get stuff out there. I know Twitter, especially for like writers, it's a great way to test jokes. You know what I mean? I mean, you're allowed only a certain amount of characters. You got to edit out all the other stuff. You know what I mean? And get the idea out. So yeah, I think it can be good and bad, I guess, depending on how you see it.
I have a little bit of a woo-woo answer. It's like, if you think it's annoying when people promote themselves, then like you can look inside yourself and be like, why do I think that's annoying? Because I want to celebrate my own successes. Like, and I say that from experience. Like, I used to think other people promoting themselves was very annoying, and then I realized, well, it's because I don't like to celebrate myself. Like, and so like now I purposely look for people's accomplishments because it's a way for me to give to other people. I'll like, congrats! Like, it's like I'm so excited when I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody got something. Like, I can use that as part of my happiness. So then that's kind of released me from feeling like me celebrating myself or posting stuff is annoying, because it's like now I don't think it, and if someone else thinks it, that's their stuff. You know, you're not being annoying by celebrating stuff. Like, if you don't celebrate your accomplishments, then your whole life passes by and you're dead. You know, like you gotta. My therapist might have said that one, but yeah.
I agree with both Joy and Kimee. I like social media. I grew to like it. I didn't like it at first. I was advised by a person that I was working with to get on social media to help promote my happenings and things. This person, who I still consider a friend, but I just didn't agree with, suggested that I even though I was a mom, that I needed to put on a persona kind of like, well, look at Fergie and look at Gwen Stefani. They're moms, but they're still hot, and they're wearing the pumps and the tight clothes. And I'm like, but they were like that before they were moms. I was never like that. I'm like, why would I put on that persona now? It would make no sense. It's just not me. So I kind of diverted from that suggestion and decided that I was going to make my social media, and because I have a social media, I use it to promote works and things that I'm doing. I also like to repost friends' accomplishments and gigs and things that are upcoming for them. But I also like to show a little bit of reality life, you know, because I think people, I think, respond more to real life than to the stuff that's not so real. Because then they see a piece of you that they can really identify with or they can relate to. So if you're going to have a social media, definitely be truthful to yourself. Don't ever post anything that you might regret in, you know, the months or years to come, because that has happened, I think, for some, and I hope I don't do that. I hope I don't.
Wow. Oh my goodness. I can't believe it's been an hour. I feel like this went so fast, and what a joy. This is such a wonderful and joyful event. So thank you so much. Thank you to Deedee, to Kimee, to Joy. I said Joy 4 times, like Joy. This is so awesome. I want to make sure I read the next announcements right. So the next webinar, next Saturday, Creative Lab. The topic for the Creative Lab Hawaii webinar is Indigenous Storytelling. And here's the website, creativelab.hawaii.gov, and you can register there. So 6:08, wow, time flies. On behalf of Creative Lab and for me and SAG-AFTRA, thank you so much for everyone out there. Thank you to the members who are listening. I saw a couple of you guys, and thank you to the panel and Creative Labs, Michael, Georgia. This has been fantastic. I think I got everything, Michael. Did I miss anything else that you wanted me to shout out today?
No, you
I
were
got the-
great. Thank you, ladies. Have a wonderful
All
evening. Great
right.
job.
Thank you.
you.
Bye, everybody.
Y'all have a
Mahalo,
good
Sipa.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.